just not wanting to be on the computer until now. Hello, Drunkduckers, and welcome to the Drunkduck Quackcast. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Tance and Baines. Hello.
Hello.
And this is Quackcast number... Oh, hello. It's Quackcast number 643. I believe. Don't you think? You know, because normally I'm sort of...
I think that by my count... Yeah. I think we might have a delay, I have a feeling. Oh. But yes, by my count, it's 643.
Normally I have a big lot of notes.
And I base my count on what you just said.
Normally I've got a big lot of notes prepared, but I actually forgot to do that. So I'm just doing that now quickly while I'm talking. I'm just piecing my notes together. Sorry to reveal that, but you know, the Quackcast is run by me being very, very silly. So there we go. I've finally got the notes ready. Okay. So this week we're talking about things that don't immediately find their audience. Well, so the idea was that there's this new Indiana Jones film coming up, Indiana Jones 5. And people aren't liking it already. People are already hating it. And is that because it's actually a terrible film? Or because people want to hate it? Because they like to, you know, hate things that aren't exactly to their expectations? Or because it was marketed a certain way and it doesn't match what they thought it was going to be? Or is it because it's actually terrible? Like, it could be any of those things. Because we have seen in the past a lot of things come out like that. And those things will often tend to get cult status. You know, not all the time, but that is a big thing behind cult status, in that the thing comes out, it doesn't find its feet, doesn't find its audience, it's because it's marketed wrongly or not marketed enough or whatever. And in the intervening years, for various reasons, it picks up a new audience. Heaps of stuff found that in the video age, you know, when videos started to become a big thing in the 1980s, and of course DVDs as well. And that's happened all over again in the digital age, where things, you know, find new premieres on different streaming services, and they're advertised on a streaming service, and suddenly they find a new audience when they didn't before, when they originally came out, and suddenly they become hits. But sometimes there's things that just never find an audience, and people always regard them as crap, but when you watch them, you think, oh my god, this is actually something I enjoy. This really appeals to me for various reasons. And sometimes there's things that come out that everyone loves, and you watch them and you think, why in the world is this a thing? This is just terrible. There's nothing about this that is any good. What in the world makes this appeal to people? So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about, that kind of audience disconnect. All the different kinds of ways, you know, we can see things, and, you know, is something really bad, or is it just because it hasn't found the right audience yet? But first we have to bring up the featured comic, and the featured comic this week was something I featured, which was a comic called Normand, I believe. So yeah, I hope you enjoy that, when I will talk to you about it now. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was Normand. At the turn of the first millennium, a jaded Dane with a dark past joins a group of Norse Vikings as they begin to embark on a dangerous voyage of raiding and piracy. Bjorn is a tall, powerful man, a berserker, a warrior of great ferocity, but he's not well liked by most of his fellow Vikings, who are a very mixed crew. Not all of them are as suited to battle as Bjorn, and harbour doubts as to whether they'll survive to return from the epic voyage on which they're all just begun. The art is deliciously honed and shows great characterization and technical skill. It starts off in colour and then later moves to grayscale. The writing is dramatic action-adventure with just a dash of comedy. It is somewhat of a tribute to the manga and anime, the Vinland Saga, but not a fan comic in any way, just inspired by it. So I hope you enjoy reading Norman. Sometimes the syntax is a little off, but we can put that down to perhaps it's because it's depicting these Vikings who don't speak English naturally, so maybe it's that. Anyway, it's an exciting comic with fantastic artwork, and I hope you enjoy it. Norman by Heart, and it's rated T for teen. And that was our featured comic, Norman. I hope you liked that. Alright, so now for our featured music. This week, Gummels has given us a theme too. Blessed Days. Pale chartreuse blurs in the foreground. Bright light glimmers and sparkles through crystal clear water droplets. Yellow sun rises majestically. Energy infuses the day as the world vibrates ponderously into action once more. Gum Wallace has given us an evocative, throbbing piece of highly reflective electronica. So, Gum Wallace, take us away with the theme to Blessed Days. with his theme to Blessed Days, which is a fantastic comic by Inky Moondrop, and it's rated M for mature. So have a little squiz at that and see if it matches the tune. All right. Things that don't jibe with their audiences, or, you know, things that aren't bad or are bad or whatever. Well, let's talk about, okay, so there's the Indiana Jones film, which has just come out. So it's called The Dial of Destiny. It stars this woman from Fleabag, who's the new Shia LaBeouf. I don't know. It's got bad reception. It's so people like either don't like it for legitimate reasons because it is crap, or they don't like it because they wanted it to be something else, or maybe they don't like it because they wanted it to be that 1930s adventure story and it's now in the 1950s and it really doesn't really vibe with what they want anymore, or it's because Harrison Ford is, you know, obviously aged quite a lot now and they want him to be the young hero that he was, or there's the digital editing in the beginning where he's shown as being extra young and they want that more of that, or they thought that was crap. We don't know. Unless we see it ourselves, we can't judge.
Yeah.
But we can imagine, based on the other things that we've seen. So let's think of some examples of stuff that hasn't jibed with the audience. Well, that, you know, hasn't jibed with the audience when it came out, but it was quite good in our minds. For me, one of the things I'll mention was Solo. So this is a film that people will often talk about Star Wars films, and I'll just sort of bring this one up and be very dismissive of it, or they'll hate it, or they'll just say, oh my god, that was just clearly an example of something that was obviously crap. So in my mind, now I'm very critical about Star Wars stuff, just as much as any other fanboy, any other nerdy, horrible, nasty fanboy. I'm just as critical of that as anyone else. But Solo, that vibe with me. I thought that was quite good. Had some crap parts in it, like obvious missteps, and I'll be quite forthright at. I'll be quite forthcoming at remarking on those. But I don't feel that those things made it a terrible film. I thought it was a good film regardless. You know, the sort of way they reinterpreted Lando Calrissian as this kind of foppish, gayish, pansy kind of guy, you know, who's wearing these capes because he's like very concerned about his appearance, and he falls in love with robots and all this kind of stuff. You know, he's this sapiosexual, whatever. It was just absolute bullshit. That had nothing to do with the original interpretation of the character whatsoever. I don't understand why they did that. I think it was just based on the fact that, okay, so he wore a purple shirt and it had a cape, and now that automatically gives a fellow a bunch of character traits, which is incredibly homophobic for a start. You know, that's just viciously people are trying to be like, oh, we're trying to be accepting and stuff. No, you're just being homophobic because you're expecting character traits and sexual kind of traits based on a way a man dresses, which is just vile in its implications. But be that as it may, that didn't destroy the film. It was still good regardless of that. And the particular actor who played the part, even though he was playing a rather silly role, he was still an excellent actor, and I still like to see him in everything he is in. So that didn't undermine the film. And there were different aspects of it like that. You know, there was this idea of space Africans that was, again, like, they're trying to be woke. They're trying to be like, okay, oh yeah, now we have like African people in here, and we have like, oh, this is their indigenous planet here, and it's been exploited and colonialized, and you'd think these are humans in a world with aliens, and these black people are not an under race, are not. There is no frickin' way you can put them in a kind of exploited role because they're humans like the rest of them, and all humans are on the same level. By doing that, you're putting them on the same. You're putting them on a different level, like where the aliens are. You can't. I mean, it's racist to extrapolate Africans in a tribal sense, in an in a European versus African sense, into the Star Wars world, because this is a completely different world. All these humans are together in one group. They're not separated into this kind of colonial and colonialist stuff. That is just racist based on their skin color, for goodness sake, and they don't even realize that. That's just the most wrong thing you could possibly do. But again, aside from that, the film was very entertaining, and I mean, a good intro to the whole Han Solo stuff. So anyway, that's my particular rant about that particular subject. So what have your been your kind of takes on various things that you would come up in a similar vein to that? Like, you've thought that everyone thought this was crap but you liked it, or everyone thought this was fantastic but you thought it was a piece of shit.
I just, the thing is that I am not certain of how certain things were received. So I'm not sure I'm going to cite, if you like, the correct examples. But like, I remember people saying that of all the live action Disney movies, Cinderella is the only one that is worth it, that is a good movie. I don't know if, yeah. I hate that movie. I find it terrible on all levels. I feel that it is just as bad quality as all the others. I mean, I can recognize that it tries to do certain things, like have Cinderella meet up with the prince before, and what have you. Everything that they attempt, the Cinderella with Drew Barrymore did it a lot better. Everything.
Oh,
So yeah, I guess I'm in the minority for that. I really don't like the movie, and
Right.
even the dress feels very uh, over the top, over the top in the bad sense of industrialization. Like, let's make it all extra, but it really pops out of the film. It pops out of the film. It doesn't just pop in the frame. It feels very modern in a film that shouldn't give you this vibe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But people love it. The dress, love it all. And yeah, sure. I hate it.
All right.
huh.
And Baines.
There's a few that come to my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of a couple. For some reason, what's in my mind is this show. I think it just ended. This show called Schitt's Creek with Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. I'm a huge fan of both of them. They're amazing. Ever since I first heard about this show and the show was first starting, it had no appeal for me as much as I love those actors. Stupid title, I thought, and I'm not like haughty about this stuff. I don't really only like highbrow things at all. Like, I love silly stuff, and sort of lowbrow stuff can be great, but I don't know. That just seemed like all the promotion and all the reaction that I heard seemed to be like, "Oh, this is great. This is hilarious." I tried watching. To be fair, I didn't really give it a full chance. I tried watching it 2 or 3 times, and I just really, I don't know. It just wasn't doing it for me
Mhm.
Interesting.
at
Didn't
all. To
appeal
be
to you.
fair, maybe I could jump in. Not sure. Not at all. Yeah, and I haven't talked to many people about it either. But for how well regarded it seems to be, um, yeah, it just from the title on down to the little bit of it I've seen, it's like this is
Oh, now that
well,
you mention it,
all due
I
respect.
mm.
I quite liked it,
Yeah.
Scrooge.
Oh, really?
What's the one? Oh my God, I don't remember the title. It's about. It has this very sciencey title, and it is about these young science major, science oriented guys that.
Big Bang Theory.
Yes, thank you. Big
Oh
Bang
my
Theory. So
goodness me.
I honestly was there. I tried to watching an episode of that, and I found it so like self indulgent in the sense that, oh, look at me, I'm so smart, as a series, like this, the script was like, look at the next smart thing I'm going to do, that sort of thing. It felt very
Yeah.
pretentious, uh, and also very mean. Like, the characters are mean. I don't like any character in there. Everyone is mean. So yeah, I couldn't get into it, and people love it, and I don't see what the appeal is. So
Well, yeah, that's an interesting one because that has a bit of a divided opinion on it, and I'm of the opinion that it's it's quite bad. I'm of that opinion. Now, when I originally watched it, I thought this is rather interesting in that these people when it first came out, I started watching it. I thought, oh, these people are just really dressed up, kind of like hipsters, because that was the fashion back then. So that was the fashion in like what is it, the late 2000s that it came out, or yeah, and
yeah,
that's what I thought they were. But and I thought, yeah, and this one is sort of gay, and they're sort of, yeah, they're really dressed up to the nth degree, yeah, and they're pretending they're smart, but they're really kind of, they're just weird, silly hipsters. And no, that's not what it was about at all. They're meant to be nerds, and
yeah,
those
but they are
outfits are
not.
meant to be nerdy. And what kind of freaking idiot thinks that nerds ever dress like that or behave that way? That's just like, what the hell? But I did start to get into it because you get seduced. If you watch something enough, you get seduced by the characters. So you
Mhm.
start to like the characters themselves in spite of everything. And I did after a while. But then the show started to wear on me because the characters, as you say, there's a meanness to them, but the show is mean to the characters themselves. It's meant to be about these nerdy people, but the premise of the show is that being a nerd is something to be despised. And actually, gaining the affections of women is something that can cure your nerdiness. And any aspects of you that make you nerdy, in that, oh, you still like computer games, or you still like toy figurines or anime, those things are negative traits. And girls can't really understand them. Even nerdy girls can't actually really understand this stuff. And only the men really like it. And being cured of that by the women and by sexual affections and sexual contact is the only positive trait that can happen. And any stuff that involves sex is positive, and anything that involves your nerdy likes or something is negative. And that was just completely like these bizarre 1950s fascist ideals about nerdiness. It's so wrong. It's just so psychologically toxic and evil, because you're starting on the premise that girls can't be fully nerdy and can't like these nerdy things. F's sake, that is just so ultimately viciously sexist, as well as just demonizing men for liking computer games and all this kind of stuff. It's just silly. But having the whole trait that women can't actually like these things in the same way, or have to be educated on liking them by men, it's just, oh my god, head explode. How could this have been made in the 2000s?
Oh my god. I'm glad that I didn't give it more than one episode hearing all of this. Um, but also I have to say it gives an impression that the script writers wanted to, and I will be mean now. So warning, this is me being mean. So the script writers wanted to give the impression of writing characters that are very smart, very clever, very bookish in certain areas, and very deep into certain things. And it comes across like the authors, like the script writers, don't have the chops to back that up. They are not that smart and they are not into all of these things. So they make a lot of mistakes that are that make the characters come across as posers, basically.
Yes.
So yeah, it completely turned me off. Like and because they are posers, and that fits very. Like I'm positive that that was not intended. It was super unintentional, but because they are posers, they are also very mean.
As posers usually are.
Yeah. So that's yeah. I don't understand how it got so popular. I honestly don't. So
Probably because
and it did. That show was hugely popular.
Popularity would have had something to do with the way it was promoted, the way it was presented originally, because in the United States, shows are marketed in certain ways. They're aired after certain things that have a layer of popularity, and that transitions towards this thing. So I think it was done by the same people who made 2.5 Men, and that was quite popular, and it was probably positioned on the networks in relation to that show in order to pick up some of that audience. So I think it was given various kind of like various push-ups in the way that they can do it that way, just with time slots and things like that, and shows that are related to it, as well as having guest stars and things. Like they had Will Wheaton on there a lot of times, who's very popular in the nerd community. But yeah, and other people like that. Stan Lee was on it, all sorts of things like this. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it is something that totally, absolutely mischaracterizes nerd culture in the worst way possible. In every single regard. So yeah, I'm not sure about. Like you, I'm not sure about why it retained its likability. I think because there is this idea of like a lot of people misunderstand nerd culture because many of these big movies have come out, the whole Marvel stuff like that, the superhero things, and everyone looks at those and thinks, oh, I'm a nerd now because I like this stuff. And they don't realize, no, this was massively mainstream. The actual nerdy people are the people who are crazily, autistically loving these niche kind of subjects that no one else likes. So that's a very different thing. And by liking, the Big Bang Theory, you're not really getting a window into that nerd culture and the people who like those films. You're getting a window into the same mainstream manufactured culture as the Marvel films. So maybe that's the thing, because it's that same mainstream level of pretend nerdies. I don't know. It's a tricky thing to talk about because none of us, even though we do comics, we're not really that kind of like demonized nerd. That we can pretend that we are, but we are not really on that level of that nerdiness. I mean, we do approach it in some ways, but yes, compulsively. But yeah, we often approach it, but we're not quite at that kind of world.
Yeah. The general idea of being a nerd, at least as I understand it, is that you have very narrow and deep knowledge about something. So you are like a walking encyclopedia in something that often is very niche, or it is like very few people are this well informed on this issue or on in this category or in this topic or what have you, and that's what makes someone a nerd. There are like lumping every nerd together in the same category is even I would say I would suggest that that is also wrong because, for example, a psychology nerd is completely different than a nerd that is very much into trauma films, for example.
Or
Uh,
video games, but
yeah,
there's another another aspect that makes someone a
mhm,
nerd. It's not just their passion; it's that they have social issues. So
mhm,
they they have to have like they can't be very socially adept. They have to have a great deal of awkwardness around groups of people or the opposite sex or something like that, tied in with that deep encyclopedic knowledge about their particular subject.
mhm.
And then that sort of identifies them as being nerdy. They dress badly. They're not socially very adept. So it's those two things that kind of equal it. And those characters, none of them really match that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, one of them is like betraying obvious traits of sort of an Asperger's sort of character. So he has like you know psychological traits that cause him to behave this way. And even that doesn't make him nerdy. It just means he's rather unusual. But you could have him as a friend, and you wouldn't like think that he was nerdy because of that. You just say, "Oh yeah, that's his particular mental state, and that causes him to behave this way." But he's a
Mhm.
great person. So yeah. Anyway, that is the Big Bang Theory. Baines, you didn't really weigh in on Big Bang Theory here.
Yeah, I think I'm on a delay a little bit, so I didn't want to jump in too much because the delay is such that I would have been talking over the second half of any one sentence. So yeah, I did the same as you. I bought I watched it for a while. I think I bought the DVD when the show was new, season one, and so I watched that whole season, and I enjoyed, like, the actors are all really good, and the characters kind of draw you in, like you said, Oz. But it does start to wear on you, and yeah, you realize there's something disingenuous going on, maybe a little, you know, kind of prepackaged for easy writing. Like they're nerds, yeah, but that's taken to be, well, yeah, they love Star Wars and Star Trek and comics, and they're all these brilliant guys and everything, and socially awkward. But it doesn't. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's prepackaged for episodic
Yeah,
TV sitcom.
but they love that stuff,
Right.
but it's not seen as a positive thing.
Well, it's seen as, like you said, like makes them social outsiders, which those things don't anymore.
Yes, they haven't for like 30 years or something.
Yeah, that's like old, like people who liked it decades earlier would have been more nerdy, maybe. But yeah, this is all
Yeah,
mainstream now.
And they play like World of Warcraft and stuff like this. You know, it's the most popular mainstream thing. They do super mainstream stuff. Even their cosplays, super mainstream shitty cosplay that's bought from, you know, Halloween shops. It's that kind of crappy stuff that everyone wears, and oh yeah, they're nerdy there, and they go, oh god, no, nothing they do is nerd at all.
I mean, I guess it's supposed to be a shorthand for these nerdy outsiders and everything, so it could be easily understood. And it wasn't intended to be an accurate portrayal of anything, you know. It's intended to make lots of money, and it did.
Like, yeah, but that wasn't the negative thing. The negative thing was that the nerdiness is seen as negative in relation to, you know, the sexual nature of women, which can cure the nerdiness, which is like the main theme, and that was the original theme of the show to begin with. Like, if you ever watched the pilot episode, and it's sort of like, yeah, that's all the way through.
That's the take on the world that the show has, and that plus the meanness. I think that's what probably put me off eventually. I just lost interest in continuing.
Yeah, I mean, I actually would have liked it better if they were stuck with the pilot version, which was very honest. That was just so honest in the way that it went about it, whereas the rest of the show was a bit disingenuous. Like, it was pretending to like these characters and pretending to be about this, and yeah. But anyway, that's The Big Bang Theory. You might like it. And you'll be right to like that, because we are not arbiters of taste. And if you like it, then that's good.
There's plenty of funny stuff in that show. I have watched it sporadically over the years, and those, you know, Chuck Lorre created the show, and like him, he knows how to make a sitcom and kind of make it work. And that show is a network show. They're cranking out 25 episodes a year or whatever it was. So, you know.
Yeah. Very true, very true. And as we said, the writers are seductive. I mean, the characters are seductive in various ways. And a lot of good actors, you know. Jim Parsons, fantastic fellow. Kaylee Cuoco, the girl there, and what's his name? Stileski or whatever his name, Leonard. He's a fantastic actor. He's been in many things. Like, he started in Roseanne, I think. So, yeah, I'd be very pleased to see what else these actors do as they move on from that show. All right, speaking of moving on, let's see. Okay, so a show that I think I mentioned before came out, people didn't really vibe with it, was the Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is a crazy, interesting, bizarre, weird film. Really didn't have that much of a big success when it first came out. You know, it didn't make hundreds of millions of dollars the way big success films do now, but over the years it has become very popular with people. Massively popular, because it's so weird and unusual. So that's a good example of a characteristic cult film. Something that didn't find its audience originally, but has since found its audience and since found people who loved it. For me, personally, there's things like, I think I mentioned Tank Girl. So this is a film that came out in the early to mid-90s, starred Laurie Petty, who hadn't ever starred in a film before. She'd been like like a love interest sort of actor, bit part actor, but now she's starring. It starred, I think, Toni Collette as well, who's become a really big, famous actor. She's an Australian woman. And Ice-T was in it, various people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a film based on a very popular late 80s alternative comic book about this girl called Tank Girl, and this is something you really wouldn't expect a movie to be about. You wouldn't expect someone to make a movie about this, especially in the 90s, because this comic is wacky, it's anarchistic, it's quite vile in a lot of ways. It's it's all over the place. It's quite obscene, and it's just not something you'd expect a movie to be made about, especially a major Hollywood film, and yet they did. And the comic has been bowdlerized in that the movie is nowhere near as freakish and as wild and as obscene as the comic in any way whatsoever. They've made a kind of like a Hollywood friendly version of it. But even so, it's still, in terms of a Hollywood film, it's still quite alternative, especially in that 90s way. You know, if you remember back in the 90s, there was a very particular kind of like an alt genre that had come about, and this was the time of the the alt girl image, you know, the woman with a lot of piercings and tattoos and stuff like that, representing a particular cultural zeitgeist. Now everyone looks like that, but back then that represented a particular cultural zeitgeist, and this film kind of captures that. This film surfs that mid-90s cultural zeitgeist, and it's a very good document of that. And Courtney Love, who was very, very much part of that particular culture back then, she did the score to the film. She got a lot of like fantastic big name bands to be part of the score. You know, people like Bjork and the guy from Stone Temple Pilots, all sorts of things, like massive bands were part of the score, and that plays all through the film. The film has a particular look, it has a particular feel, and it really fits in with that mid-90s alt culture, and that's what makes it the cult classic it is today. I mean, a lot of people really love the film now, way more than they did back in the 90s, and it's managed to find that audience because of that. I'll just say it again, cultural zeitgeist. I keep on saying it again and again and again, but that alt feel that had been so popular in the 90s, it captured it and documented it and created a good kind of fun film around it. So, and it had the opposite effect of like, it didn't like bring the lovers of the comic in to watch the film. It brought the lovers of the film into the comic, and it really did that over and over again, and still continues to do that, which is a really interesting thing. So yeah, that's my big cult classic.
Yeah,
Nice.
I remembered one. I mean, unless Baines has his, because I
No,
almost got.
go ahead.
So I don't know if you saw that film. It is called Kinky Boots, and it is the story. It is a British film. It is a story, and I think it is also a real story about this shoemaker who has a small factory and is having a lot of financial troubles, and his shoes aren't being very popular anymore, although they have extra good quality. Um, so he gets an offer by the drag queen community to make them shoes with high heels that are sturdy enough to withstand heavy use by very tall, very heavy men, in the sense not heavy as in fat, but like the general bulk and makeup of a man, at least how it is presented in the movie, makes it hard for them to find shoes that last, that don't break after a couple of drag queen shows. And it is an amazing film. I love it. It shows like the shoemaker is a very conservative guy, in the sense that he has no ties to that kind of a community. He has never been anything but your average uh, low tone British guy. And you have I think either it is Idris Elba or who plays the main. Uh, no, I don't remember. I think it is. I don't remember. It's a very iconic black guy that plays um, the leading drag queen um, of the group.
RuPaul.
What did you say?
RuPaul. I mean, he's actually a drag queen, but he's
I'm not
very
sure.
feminine.
I
I'm
think
not sure.
it might be Chiwetel Ejiofor. I just looked it up.
Okay, maybe. I honestly, I don't, but he's very iconic, and he also has an excellent pizzazz and singing voice. He's amazing to watch. I love, highly recommend. Anyway, so you have this cultural clash between these two completely different worlds that normally coexist in parallel, but now they have to interact with each other because they need each other. He needs to make a niche audience to make the business float and not fire his employees, and they need the shoes. And now we have our movie, and especially for the final couple of scenes, highly recommended to watch. But it was not very well received. It was, I think, it got very pretentious reviews, like, this is not a film that is very quality. It's like it plays into uh, your love of British films. It tries to
Mm.
fly off the coattails of Full Monty and stuff like that, which I think is completely rubbish. There is there is no connection, in my opinion, between Kinky Boots and Full Monty, except that it is about a group of British people trying to not financially die.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, I think it brings people into the drag community very well, in a very respectful way, and in a way that a person that is not already into that community can enjoy and can be uh, positively attuned, primed to it, if you like. And also shows that you don't need to be at odds with people you don't understand, and it's not necessary for you to embrace them in a sense like become them, because the main character, the shoemaker, never becomes a drag queen. But that nobody asks him, nobody needs him to be a drag queen. The only thing he needs to do is understand how to make the frigging shoes and make them really, really well. And that's exactly what he does. And that's how he is in group in that community, as someone who helps them do what they like. Uh, and I really appreciated that, because usually you have in movies like, oh, I don't understand these people, and I have distance from these people, and they are, oh, how awkward we are now talking to each other, and then I also become one, uh,
Yeah.
which gives, I
I
think,
secretly always wanted to be this
yeah.
all the
And
time.
I think that gives a wrong message, because you can totally be friends, coexist, and understand what you need to understand from communities that you're not part of, and live in harmony. You don't need to know everything, you don't need to understand everything. All you need to understand are common people points, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you don't have to become that, or someone doesn't have to
Mhm.
become that thing that they're learning to understand, or
Exactly.
yeah, that's well said.
Mm. Yeah, that kind can really undermine the message and dilute it by
Yeah,
saying, "Oh yes, because he made the things, but because he was always one of them anyway. He always wanted secretly wanted to."
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's so much fun, because there is, if this was a spectrum, which it's not, but you wouldn't have. He is the most typically British guy you can see, you can find. Like he's a British stereotype in the best of ways, though. Not a stereotype like a cardboard, but he's your average British dude who also is feels very self-conscious when he's around people that are not very, low tone, quiet, calm, and it's like a finch that is suddenly surrounded by uh, birds of like very brightly colored birds of
Mhm.
the Amazon. Uh, Tropical birds or something like, and he's like a little finch that is sort of intimidated by them, as well as wanting to help them so they can help him, so on and so forth. I love the dynamic, and I find that it is one of the rare movies that do it perfectly, at the perfect balance, loving both communities that are represented there. So yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh, it
awesome.
looks good. Looks good. I like Nick Frost. He's in it, so
Hmm.
yeah. Looks fun.
It is. And I occasionally watch the last two scenes because they are super fun. I'm not going to spoil them though. Go see it.
And now Baines.
Um, well, I've been thinking a lot lately about this movie that I loved many, many years ago, and I watched it a couple times in the theater, our small theater, um, and so many times on video. I hadn't seen it in many, many years, and watched it again recently. Bought it, called Flatliners from 1990. I loved that movie so much. Like, you too? Oh, awesome. Well, it's good to hear. Yeah.
I think it's perfect. Go ahead.
It's
Go.
perfect. Yeah, it's just something about it. I love. It's not really a character study exactly, but I love the characters. I love the vibe, and it's still feels so modern. So I looked up review. I had no idea at the time. I don't know if it did well or badly or what or how the reviews were. I never had any idea until I looked it up just recently, and very split. Some people like it, think it's exciting. It also got bad reviews, calling it, pandering to the youth market, which I don't see that at all in that movie, but and repetitious kind of. But yeah, like a very like almost 50% split with reviews that I saw. But
Hmm.
Interesting.
it's
This
and
was
I
a
don't know
film
if
with.
my friends like it either, but it really clicks with me. Like, that's cool to hear you liked it, Tim.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I found it one of the better films uh, made from that time. Let's
Yeah.
put it. Yeah.
This was a film of with the that Brat Pack of the day. I think that's what they were
Sort
called.
of. They didn't
Like
do a bunch of
Kiefer
movies.
Sutherland and
Mm.
people like that.
Yeah, they didn't do a whole bunch together, but it's a great cast: Kiefer Sutherland and Julia Roberts and Kevin Bacon, Oliver Platt, and
Yeah. Oh my God.
he
Yeah.
was really funny in it. I think
Oliver Platt is an
William Baldwin is
awesome
the other guy.
actor.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, one of the
And
Baldwins.
and it surprises you as a movie because it starts off as a teen movie in a sense, but I think it spirals into horrific, not horror necessarily, but horrific things without you realizing it. And at some point you are startled that you are in the position you are with the characters. And I love that. I really appreciate it when it
Yeah,
happens.
it's cool. It's clever. It's such a cool idea for a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, thriller, not a horror. Although you don't really know it the first time you see it. It could be going to horror. But yeah, more like a thriller. And I was
Hmm.
amazed at it when I watched it again. It's like, wow, this could have been made this year. It really feels so modern. I would take it over Lost Boys. Same director.
Yeah, that's
Any
exactly
day.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And no,
Because the
that's kind of
sequel is in that
forgotten. You know,
too,
people
isn't
love
it?
Lost Boys, but this movie
Mhm.
is not. They made a remake actually that apparently is horrible. I haven't seen it.
Of Lost Boys.
No, of Flatliners.
No, you
I
don't.
have to say, I love Lost Boys.
Yeah, people do. Well, that's
Mhm.
yeah, Lost Boys. People still talk about. I would take Flatliners over Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Right.
I liked Lost Boys as well, but Flatliners I think is the superior film by comparison.
You might be right. I haven't seen it, so I cannot judge.
It's very different. You know, only
Yeah.
like I said because it's the same director and they came out kind of close to each other.
Hmm.
But yeah,
I think it poses like Lost Boys. Again, I like it. I like how they portray the whole vampiric thing, and like I would watch more of that easily. But Flatliners poses very real questions about research and and ethics and
Ethics.
you can do it, but should you do it, that sort of thing, and
Mm.
where
yeah,
do you
It's
draw the
more
line?
intelligent, you're saying,
Yeah,
versus entertaining.
it is very entertaining, but it
super
also makes
entertaining.
you think in a sense.
Yeah, it's very fast paced, very exciting, entertaining. Yeah. Well worth it.
So flipping this on its head, movies that are very highly acclaimed and I absolutely hate. The poster movie for this, for my category of everyone loves it, I hate it, would be The Green Mile, which is a movie that I despise. I remember walking out of the cinema angry, like I was I was angry about it, and mostly like I don't want to spoil it, although it is an old movie by now. It is about this very uh, like almost magical, almost divinely gifted uh, inmate who
Yeah.
who is black, and he's I think in 1930s American prison or a very old timey looking prison. I don't remember now the exact setting. Um, and he was convicted to death for the alleged murder of two girls that he was actually trying to heal and bring back from death because he can do that. But he was interrupted, and then people thought that he was the murderer, blah, blah, blah. And we slowly watch as the warden, played by Tom Hanks, slowly realizes this, and in the end realizes that he is about to escort to the electrical chair a man that is not only innocent, but he's basically a saint. He is a saint who goes around performing miracles on people unconditionally. He's even uh, stowed out of prison so that he can heal the warden's the chief warden's wife,
Mm.
if I remember.
Yeah.
And eventually the man is executed. So the problem isn't how the movie, for me, isn't how the movie concludes, but it is how the movie frames the characters, and they frame the character played by Tom Hanks in a very like sanctified way, or at least in a very positive light that in my opinion he doesn't deserve, and it gives a very wrong message to people about what
Its heart is frozen.
you are. Oh,
You froze for a second there.
oh my god, did you You didn't hear any of what?
The last thing we heard, or last thing I heard, was they give Tom Hanks, they create in him a very sanctified image of his character.
Yeah, or at least they put him in a very positive light, and in my opinion, it gives a very nasty message to people about what is ethically acceptable to choose to do when you are stuck in a dilemma like this, and they roll responsibilities that this character should have had onto the victim, that is the black guy. So yeah, and I found that this was very bad as a lesson to people liking this movie, and I was angry and I hate it.
Okay, you're talking about what he decides to do in the end when he asks John, the prisoner, what should I do? Oh, he's talking Tempest. Like when he asks the prisoner, what should I do? Should I let you go?
Yeah, you don't do that. It's
Hmm.
like the parents asking the kids, and I'm going. I'll say why I'm saying this. Like, what should I do? Should I divorce your dad, or shouldn't I?
Oh, I
I'll
see.
do what you tell me, right?
Oh yeah, that's quite awful. When
So
you
it
think about
absolves him, sort of. Although I mean, yeah, I won't spoil the movie
it.
either. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Perhaps
and
it should be spoiled.
yeah. Sorry, yeah, it is spoiled, but
Oh, yeah,
uh,
sorry.
well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's an old movie, okay. And the thing is, yeah, the guy says, I'm tired, boss, basically, kill me because I'm tired, that I cannot bear being in this world of full of evil people. Fine. He is saying this, but you moron, have you even considered that he's saying this potentially because if you let him go and he is not executed, you are going to be in trouble, and he is just sacrificing himself for you. That's one thing. Second thing is he might be tired of this world, but it is not up to you to kill him. If you have the capacity to stow him out of prison, you should be able to let him go. And if he wants to kill himself, let him do it on his own time. Um, so, yeah, I think, and when you see someone that has such a divine gift, this person is in communication with a great divine thing. Or in any case, he's super special and he is innocent, and you are still killing this person. This is, I think, a big a-hole move.
Uh,
uh, because, yeah, imagine
I
this
wish
guy
I'd seen it so I could
yeah, this
weigh
guy
in.
would be depressed by having witnessed evil at its highest. He witnessed, he saw, and when I say he witnessed, I mean that he saw two dead girls and he was trying to heal them. And it is shown in the movie that he takes in all the evil and then basically throws it up in a sense. So he
Right.
manifested all of this. Of course, he would be a depressed person, and a depressed person has also suicidal ideation, and you don't entertain that, and you definitely don't take it. Oh, okay, he told me that I can kill him, so I can now keep my job, and nobody is going to tell me that I was wrong to kill him because he wanted it, and I can wash my hands of this.
Oh, it sounds like a terrible film.
It is very well shot, perfect cinematography. It sucks you in, you immerse yourself. It is a very well done movie that is, in my opinion, crap. So yeah,
Could we blame the writer? Wasn't it a Stephen King film?
yeah, I think so.
yeah, adapted from his
Yeah,
from something he wrote. Yeah.
That would be a very Stephen King way of thinking.
still crap.
Oh no, I'm not absolving it of crapness. I'm just saying, yeah, that
I know. I
Probably
was
why it's crap.
being the comic relief now. But yeah,
Okay.
it's amazing that I am still angry about this movie right now. Like I got heated easily over this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of films that have been loved and haven't really had the same feeling about them myself. Although I've never seen Titanic, unfortunately, I still have successfully avoided that all these
Oh,
years. So
Oh,
it's
I can't say.
it's a good movie.
Okay, all right. Well, Avatar is another James Cameron one, and that has good points. It's just really bad. As a sci-fi film, it's really, really crap. There's no kind of saving grace for it as a sci-fi
Yeah.
film, which I find really annoying. It's pure fantasy. It's more fantasy than Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
It's just absolute.
For me,
Yeah, so
it felt a lot like Fern Gully and Pocahontas for adults.
oh yeah, 100% that.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'm struggling at the moment to think of a film that was universally loved that I didn't like for whatever reason. I mean, what about Baines? Do you have one?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are plenty of them, but nothing's really coming to mind.
All right.
I'm sure there are lots of classics that I hate, or I'm just bored by.
How about Citizen X?
What's that?
You mean Citizen Kane?
Sorry, Citizen X is how it is in Greek. The title.
Oh, okay. It's Citizen Kane. I saw that. I liked it. Okay.
I haven't watched the entire thing, but I actually liked it.
I don't know. I'm not hating it, but I cannot see the genius in it. I'll be honest. So.
Yeah.
For the time, contextually, it felt very different. It felt like a much more modern film than what it is. In the way it's edited and the way particular characters react to things and the way the plot's ordered. So it felt ahead of its time. So that's probably where it gets some of that kudos. So yeah, this is weird that we can't really take films that were loved and what we didn't like. Shit. All right, so let's just do a bit of a brainstorm thing here. All right, name some big films. Pelican Brief. That was a much loved film. I've never seen it, so I don't know.
Popcorn movie. Don't think about it too much afterwards.
All right. Oh, for goodness sake. Baines, do you know anything?
I couldn't even understand the one you just named. What did you just say?
The Pelican Brief.
Oh,
Pelican Brief. Oh, I know. Okay, all right. A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men. Now, this is absolutely loved by people. It got Oscars, for goodness sake. It was just, lauded as such an excellent film with these moments between Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson as they're arguing the points back and forth over the legal bench, just, I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Famous line, repeated over and over and over. I watched this film and thought this was the biggest pile of overdone, obvious crap that I've ever seen. There's nothing about this film that remotely qualifies it as being, good. It's totally an average sort of film. Average, and it's overacted by Tom Cruise in every single way possible. I mean, he plays this brash, upstart lawyer, and there he goes, like Jagler, this which Judge Advocate General. This is particular kind of legal system in the American for the American
Mhm.
Marines. I think
I
that's
think
what
so,
they
yeah.
are. So here he is with his brashness and his nonconformist way of interacting with people. So he's always eating an apple in front of them just to show what a kid he is and how brash he is. How freaking obvious is that? Eating an apple in front of them. I mean, was this done in the 1940s? For
It
God's
does
sake.
hit the nail pretty
And
hard
Yeah.
with a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the shouting between them. This was back when Tom Cruise, I mean, he still does it. He shouts in order to be
Intense.
like seen as being more sincere and intent. But that again is so obvious. It doesn't make him more intense. It's just him yelling. And I'm not one of these people who thinks, Tom Cruise is actually a really shit actor. No, I genuinely think he can act. Originally in his early films like Legend and Risky Business, he's pretty crap. Even in The Color, was it Color of Money or no, Cocktail, yeah, things like that. He there's a bit of a working in period, and he gets better. No, even the Cocktail and Color of Money is not bad, but yeah, in A Few Good Men, it's just overacting. It's completely over the top and really just indulging in that shoutingness, and they're playing off each other. Jack Nicholson is playing off Tom Cruise, and they're just trying to top each other with that kind of shouting, and neither of them are coming across as very sincere in the roles, and they're not being more believable. They're just being more shouty. And they're not really getting the point across of mad people who really I want the truth, or no, I'm really patriotic and this is my evil mixed up version of patriotism, blah blah blah. It's just over the top actors trying to be more actory than the actor who's facing them. That's what it comes across to me as.
Well, I love that movie. But I can't really disagree with anything you said.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely agree with all of what you said, and I also love that movie because it's so much fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I did not know that it won Oscars. I wouldn't go that far, like that it is an Oscar level, let's say, movie. But oh my God, it is so entertaining. I now have the urge to see it again. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's very watchable, but that was the whole point. Because these things that are so well loved that
because you know what, it is representative of here are the young heroes of justice of the 90s around there. I don't know. And I love those young justice warriors of the 90s because they are, like you said, all over the place, over the top, larger than life, and completely unrealistic. And it's like watching a comic book movie, but of a different sort than, superheroes. And I love that. I love that sort. I watch it as a comic book lawyer movie, in a sense.
Right. Not as realistic.
Yeah. So much fun.
Is it? I watched the other day. I watched the have you ever seen
Yeah.
Legal? He's this guy on YouTube. Yeah, and he did a take on it with a guy who used to be an actual judge advocate general, and they said, the whole premise of the film that they're on the very the edges of the borders of America, keeping America safe, and the judge advocate general guy's going there no, Cuba's not like that at all. Cuba's you go there, it's like a holiday.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Guantanamo Bay.
Episode of Legal. Watch that as well. That was a lot of fun as well. See, this movie creates entertainment. It's just entertaining.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, if they'd changed the premise to be about like an actual war zone, then it would have been way more intense and interesting. But the whole, like, because they've misunderstood the idea that Guantanamo Bay is some kind of, this is the edge of the border, this is where all the weird stuff happened.
Yeah.
Because they
You know what
misunderstood that,
though?
it kind of played through the entire film, even though I didn't know that at the time. I think it did play through the whole film that it didn't really work because they didn't understand what they were writing.
No, I agree, absolutely agree. And also, if they were at a war zone, they wouldn't need hazing and stupidities like that because the war does the hazing. You don't need anything else. They would just, shove the guy in front of, like, make him a meat shield or something like that. Like, it would be a completely different premise if they were at the front.
Well, yeah, and the whole like hazing idea being this like this level of this is at the ultimate, like all the this is at the highest levels of covering up, and it's just freaking. This is like in what happens in a college campus. This is not that you amplify this to some massive level. For goodness sake. Yeah, it's hazing that resulted in someone's death. This happens in American college campuses all the time. This is, not something where you want to, like, convict a colonel. And create a huge story about it. It was just very silly. But if it was in terms of an actual, military engagement, then it would have made sense. So yeah, it was. The writers probably were just.
That movie was in the same vein, but and I don't even like. Maybe it had also Tom Cruise. I don't remember, but it was about this young officer, female officer, who was found murdered, and that's the one.
With
That I think is a better take in that sort of thing.
John Travolta was in it, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, definitely. That was a much smarter idea about the consequences and things. So the setup was smarter. So yes, there are various films like this. Did I mention the whole Sucker Punch thing, which I came in through with the video for Patreon? I don't think I did. So Sucker Punch was this film where it was marketed very much on the stylish, fun imagery that was part of it. So the whole thing about Sucker Punch was that it is a very heavy subject, and it's quite told in a heavy-handed way. I think about this girl and her sister who suffer sexual abuse from their father. So that's a very heavy subject, but it's told in this bizarre way because this girl has this kind of fantasies in her way of dealing with this. All these kind of real things get transmuted into like live action manga, bizarre video game things that happen, like in this World War One war situation, or against gigantic samurai giants, or just all these kind of bizarre situations that happen with this girl, this amazing burlesque dance scenes and stuff like that. And I think it was really marketed with that kind of imagery to the forefront. The World War One stuff, and the girls dress in lingerie and these fantastic outfits, and the burlesqueness and all that kind of stuff was used in the marketing. They didn't really focus on the fact that there was this sexual abuse at the heart of it. So when people came to watch it and they saw, oh my God, this is what it's really about, it felt like a sucker punch, the title of it. Because, they weren't expecting this. It just hit in the guts. So I think mainly audiences were primed to expect something that wasn't there, which I think, caused people to really hate it and have a negative reaction to the film. And I've seen the film a couple of times, and I don't dislike it at all. See, I didn't have this kind of marketing thrown at me, so I didn't really know what to expect. I had seen my first exposure to this was at Comic-Con in, I think, 2010, 2011. I just saw like little funky bookmarks of it, and that's all I saw, and it just looked really cool. Sucker Punch, and all this exciting imagery, and I didn't know what to expect. And when I saw it, I thought, oh my god, this is like something more than what I was expecting. This is way more, beyond what I was expecting. I didn't expect, any of that kind of content, but it didn't come off to me as offensive. I thought, yeah, this is sure a character could, transmute things in her mind into these particular ways, and she could deal with them in that way. And yeah, sure, can be seen as a depressing end in that, one of the main characters dies, but it is in a way, it's done in a way to save another character. So this is almost a kind of, a Christ. She becomes a Christ kind of figure in that way. There's this self-sacrifice, and that sort of thing is redeeming. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's a really, really interesting and good film, but it's still seen as crap. Oh yeah, something else in that vein is Tron 2. Now, Tron, the second Tron, is generally regarded as not a very good sequel to the original film from the early 80s. And I don't know. I enjoyed it for some reason. I can't say why I enjoyed it, and I can't say why people really hate it. But I quite like it because it's just funky. It looks so cool. The first one looked cool at the time, but now it looks, really kind of crap. But it looked cool at the time because it was using all kinds of unusual visual effects and stuff like that. And the story was, really ropey, but people liked it just because it was so unusual, and it came out at a time when there was nothing like it. Now, the second film, I felt it looked really cool, and it took advantage of visual effects that were just coming to the fore at the time, in 2010. And I don't know, I feel it's a good film. In that vein as well, like Matrix 2 and 3. Now, these films are hated and really seen as terrible. Now, I don't see them as that bad. I don't see them as living up to the promise of the first film, and they're unnecessary. They're not needed. The first film is all that is needed in that trilogy, but still, they're not incredibly crap. I feel they have, they have some merit. Anyway, so that's my thing. And those films, none of them have become cult films. I think generally people don't like any of those.
You make me curious to see Sucker Punch in particular.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, definitely.
No, I haven't even seen
Have
Tron.
you seen Tron 2?
1.
Me neither.
No.
Baines, seriously, you haven't seen Tron 1? Oh my god. Wow. We've got to do a Quackcast where we watch Tron 1.
Oh my god.
Try and
I will of course
hard to watch,
attend,
yeah.
but with you dread, because I could never get into Tron. Never. So that will be interesting. See if that happens.
Tron 1 and then we'll try Tron
the
2.
flooding technique.
Immersion.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Right, that sounds like a plan. We won't do that in the same Quackcast because obviously that would be way too long. But yeah, it could be a sequel Quackcast. Well, there we are. And you guys can judge whether the second film really is terrible based on your reactions to the first film.
There we go.
Excellent. And I don't think Sucker Punch is a good Quackcast film. It's a bit heavy. All right then. So this has been Quackcast number 643.
Yay!
The Cultcast.
We did not create a cult.
We didn't. Oh, but
The
you remind
concept
me. Way
cuts.
back when I worked in a video store, we had created a section for cult classics. Everyone working there were big movie geeks. That was a loaded section. It was really fun. And
Oh.
when I was working one day, this customer came in, this lady who was older than me, and started berating me because we had a section for cult movies. She thought it was a religious, like a sacrilegious thing, and I was like nervously trying to explain what a cult classic was before I really had the verbiage to explain it. Very awkward.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh no. But that sounds hilarious, though.
Yeah, cult
You were privileged
movies about cults.
to have a genius.
Well, no.
You should have told her, don't go
Oh
in
my
there. They are all
God.
indoctrination movies for different cults, and we have them in categories, so you can choose which death cult to join
Exactly.
afterwards.
Many gateways.
Yeah.
They're actually an intelligence
Oh,
test,
no.
madam, and you have failed. you cretin. Oh dear me. Oh, that's terrible. Okay. Oh well. With that, we will wrap up this week's Quackcast. Thank you very much for listening to Quackcast number 643,
Yay!
and join our cult and participate in our virgin sacrifice.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.